Now we're recording on Zoom.
Okay. All right. So again, we will call to order the January 19th, 2021 CEO Board briefing to order. Please let the record reflect that all three commissioners are present. And then on Zoom, we'll be joined by a number of people throughout this morning's meeting. But also, if we could ask if there's anybody on the phone line, if you could please introduce yourself. Everybody on?
Good morning, Commissioner Kearns, Paul Warfield, City of Spokane.
Hello, Paul. All right, if there's anybody else, feel free. We'll just give you a couple more seconds.
Commissioner Kearns, this is Cindy Wendell of Spokane County.
Hello, Cindy. Okay.
Hello.
Jim Kaufman should be on the phone.
All right, is Jim Kaufman on the line with us today? Oh, no, he's on Zoom. I see him there on Zoom. Perfect. Okay. All right, well, we will get rolling. We're going to lead off today with Mike Burgess, our county lobbyist, and he's going to give us a legislative update. Take it away, Mike.
Hello, commissioners. So have a relatively long list of items to run through with you. Legislation, in some cases, I'm going to want a position or direction from you on. And it looks probably longer than it might take, though. I think we can get through it pretty quick in respect to your time. Just briefly, just some observations. We are a week and a few days into session. The volume has been down. Committee hearings, as you know, everything's remote. Committee hearings are going, by my observation, relatively smoothly. But instead of a hearing having, say, 5 bills heard, they're only hearing 2 or 3. There was some executive action I watched this morning on a non-controversial bill. Just from a timing standpoint, it just is going to take longer to move the bills and start voting things out. And they have not had yet any real extended floor debate on a bill that's had a bunch of amendments and things like that. So just from a timing standpoint, things are going okay so far. So we'll just have to see how that turns out. You had before you that agenda. I don't know if you want to, I'm happy to just kind of walk through the items, but commissioners, I sent you an email last night that had an agenda attached, an information piece about the public health districts bill, and then some links to bills. So I'm going to go in that order that was on the agenda. So the first bill looking for some direction from you all is 1099. This is the climate change element added to the Growth Management Act. This is not a new concept. We've talked about this last year, and we did talk about it. Thanks, Ron. I think you brought that up. This one, you can see what the points of the bill are in it, but we included this on our legislative agenda, something we were concerned about because of the cost components to you all at the county level. I think Commissioner French, in one of the meetings with legislators, you made a very good point that as qualified and as good as your staff is, in all likelihood, some of these elements would require outside staffing or consultants, which would be more costly than normal GMA stuff is. The bill was heard this morning. Paul Jewell, Association of Counties, testified against it, along with several members of the business community, the likely suspects like the builders, realtors in opposition, just worried about constraints on housing and things like that. So this is a measure you've opposed in the past. I wanted to bring it to your attention. I don't think this thing's going away. It's going to work its way through. This is a priority of the majority party, and in particular, some members, some active members in their caucus.
All right. Any thoughts? Commissioner French, Commissioner CUNY? You're on mute, Commissioner French.
Yeah, I've never been on this side before. Is there any discussion about this being considered an unfunded mandate at the hearing, and do you think that that position will get any traction?
Absolutely, Commissioner. That was, the largest part of Paul's testimony on behalf of counties was the unfunded mandate part of this, expressing that, counties, it's not that there's not a willingness to do this type of thing. It's just there's so many cost components to it, on budgets that are already strained. You know, the very common language you'd hear. But yes, unfunded mandates was a big part of the discussion. And commissioners, I guess what I'd add to you is, I guess the direction I'm looking for from you is the direction to go work our delegation and then committee members a lot more emails this year as opposed to in-person contacts, but wanting to pass along opposition if that's in fact the direction you want to go in a more remote world.
So,
Yep, take it away. Go.
Josh?
Yep.
So Mike, are you asking us to provide some written testimony, or do you want us to provide some oral testimony at any of the virtual meetings?
I don't think either, Commissioner. I just need your blessing to go ahead and formally oppose the bill, assuming that's the position you would take.
Yeah. All right, I'm opposed to it.
Yeah, I'm extremely opposed to it.
And I'm opposed to it as well.
All right. So put us down as against it then, Mike.
Okay, I will go work against it. We will probably revisit this because there will be ongoing discussions and negotiations with this bill as it moves forward. The next one is 5042. So I think, like I said, Ron, oh, perfect. Thank you for doing that. This bill is also not new to you. You'll recall we've seen versions of this legislation over the past, 5 or 6 sessions. And at one point, it was kind of targeted at Spokane County in that there was a project that went forward that was in your boundary, and come to find out, I think the hearings board at one point invalidated it. And the concept of this bill is to say that if a project's under appeal, it can't go forward. In my mind, this is probably an oversimplification, but in some ways, it almost makes it seem as though you are guilty until proven innocent, in a sense, with the land use decisions you've made. It was heard last week, and again, Association of Counties testified against it, looking for the similar direction to a piece of legislation, because again, you have opposed this in the past, that would want to, again, start communicating with legislators, opposition, if again, that's the choice that you make.
Okay. All right. Remarks, Commissioner French?
Yeah, so isn't this just a rehash of the old anti-vesting bill that we fought in the past and stuff? And so, you know, I'd be very much against it. It assumes that we've done things wrong before there's been any action, and it doesn't provide due process for applicants or, for that matter, even the county. So I'd be very much opposed to it.
Yep. I'm opposed to it as well.
Oh my.
Okay, that's what I needed to hear. Thank you. I figured as much. The next one, 1152, and then its companion is 5173. This is the Comprehensive Health Board's bill, and the bill's being heard later this week. Just for some background, of course, WASAC has put together 3 or 4 panels to discuss it. It'll be a broad range. You'll have some commissioners there, health board members, all kinds of folks that operate in that realm. There's numerous issues with the bill. The Word document that I attached is it's a summary that was provided by staff on the House side, a summary of the bill, kind of section by section analysis. That's one, I'm sorry, whoever's screen sharing, that's one ahead. I'm doing 1152. And like I said, it was a Word document I sent, not a link. So sorry about that. But commissioners, at this point, I don't necessarily, you know, from a standpoint, my assumption is that you would, we've had conversations about this, that you would oppose the bill. There's the section by section. And join and support WASAC's opposition to that. I don't know if you want to do anything additional to that. Given your direction, I would plan to sign and oppose to the bill this week. And then assuming it gets heard on the Senate side, we do the same there. and then just support the actions of the stakeholder groups that are working as it moves through the process and keep you updated. So just kind of throwing that out there to kind of see where you want to go.
So I guess I kind of know a lot about this one. I mean, very, very opposed to it. I know a lot of the health officers and administrators actually put in some of those comments and did it line by line to really address it. You know, one of the things that, you know, at the executive committee we talked about was, you know, the fact that, I mean, now is not the time to be revamping our entire public health system in the state of Washington. And again, we're seeing that the state has trying to do that when they came out with the new reopening process, and then what they're doing with vaccines, of which Wasack and Wasalpa both sent a combined letter to the governor or to the State Department of Health officer expressing our concerns in that we're not having collaborative discussions. It's being just decided. And so, so I think, yeah, Wasack's working very hard with Wasalpa to try to have these panels of, you know, varying interests. So it shows that this is a group effort, but this is not the way to do this at this point in time. So I'm very opposed to it.
Yeah, I agree with Mary. This is the wrong bill at the wrong time. And it's more about muscle flexing than it is good policy.
I agree that I'm opposed to this one.
Okay, so commissioners, from a strategy standpoint, I will sign us in opposed and let members know we're opposed to it. You know, this one's a little different than the previous two. I mean, clearly it's a bill. I don't know that as a board that Wasack's asking for letters in opposition or anything like that. So at this point, I think I'll just progress forward with what I guess would say conventional opposition and support Wasack's efforts, and then maybe come back to you and revisit it, because again, this one's not going to go away for a while. So we'll constantly be updating, talking about it. From a strategy standpoint, maybe at some point we do want to weigh in more formally with a letter, but I think at this point we're good to go. The next one, 1155, this is the 911 communications tax issue. Of course, you all know about this. It has not been scheduled for hearing. I know that you had a letter from Shrek, I've seen the draft of it, and I guess I need to know, can I start sharing that, and just kind of where we are. I'm assuming, of course, that you're all opposed to the bill.
Jerry, did you get a chance? This is Jerry. Did you get a chance to get a hold of Coddington?
Yep. So I don't know if you've briefed the board, Jerry, on the latest update, but Coddington is sending me a redraft of the 1155 opposition letter this morning, he said. I have yet to receive it, but as soon as I do, we will make the changes they requested, make sure that it's on the same letterhead, and to the commissioners and everybody for signature.
I talked to Cheryl Yates out at Shrek, and she was one that's handling the letter, and she's standing by to get whatever the suggested changes if we agree with those. It's very encouraging to see the support that we're getting out of the city of Spokane on this.
But yeah, I'm just waiting for his changes. He said he'd send them to me before noon.
Very good.
Commissioners, we can certainly anticipate this bill to get a hearing based on, I think it will. And so then just need to be thinking about, you know, who from Spokane would provide testimony. That doesn't need to be decided right now, not asking for that right now, but thinking about effective people to communicate your position.
Commissioner French, did you have your hand up?
I did. Jared, or maybe Jerry, you can help me a little bit here. It was the city of Spokane that actually encouraged Richelli to float this bill. So internally within the city, is this a disconnect between the mayor and city council, and is the mayor going to aggressively oppose it? at the legislature, or what's going on there?
I think there is a parting of the ways as far as the mayor's office and the council. The last correspondence that I've had with the city, the administration part of the city, is that they would like to sign the letter in opposition.
So I know that Jared or others put together a letter that was a joint letter between the three of us and the board for Shrek. Are we still considering signing that letter, or is it a different letter that we're looking at now?
It may be a different letter. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jared. We're going to look at to see what the suggested edits are, and then we'll circulate that for everybody's approval.
It's the same letter, just with whatever Coddington and the mayor wanted to add for language.
Yes.
And it's obviously up to Commissioner Kearns, but Paul Warfield from the city was on the line. Maybe he could shed some light into the conversation if you wish, Josh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Paul, if you're still with us, anything you'd like to add to the discussion?
I'm aware that the mayor and Brian were working on some language. There's nothing I can contribute more meaningful to that at this moment, but I'm expecting you to get that update shortly.
Okay. So we'll have some language shortly.
So Commissioner Kearns, are you comfortable that the action we took last week will cover this new letter? Or do we need to authorize a different letter today?
I think we're good. I mean, we authorized the drafting and signing of the letter with our signatures rather than an open public meeting. I believe we had had a caveat in there, which, sort of at the direction of our lobbyist, which he felt would be most impactful as far as what was in the language and how it was formatted, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
That was my memory, is that we were going to leave it to Mike to determine if it was better for us to be signing on to the letter with everybody else or not, or if we did a separate letter.
Commissioners, I'm not wedded to this, but my gut tells me that the most effective communications would be maybe a letter from you all. Are you three on the Shrek board? Sorry.
No.
Jerry is on, but
Jerry
the
is.
three
So
of us are not.
in my mind, you have two then. You've got the Shrek board letter that maybe other law enforcement and safety folks are signing on to, and then a separate one that's they're two different letters. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. It might be the same content, but as you know, when elected officials' names get put on things, it becomes political at that point. Whereas folks that are not elected, that are public safety representatives, it's probably viewed differently.
The reason why I raise it is that the conversation we had last week was really about whether it was going to be the Shrek board and the Board of County Commissioners doing a joint letter or a separate letter. And I agree with Mary, we were going to wait for guidance from Mike on this, but now it's Shrek, Board of County Commissioners, and the mayor. And so we've got three entities that are at play in a letter to the legislature. And so I don't know that the motion we passed last week covers the fact that we've now got the mayor that's joining us, which I'm very grateful for, but I just want to make sure that we've got ourselves covered in terms of whatever kind of letter we ultimately end up sending in.
Commissioner, can I ask it this way?
We need more flexibility. I mean, let's make another motion that allows for the flexibility then.
Commissioners, the letter that I guess what am I saying? The letter that a commissioner would sign be any different than the Shrek letter? And I guess if it's not, I guess it would be fine to have everybody on.
Well, we had the same conversation I mean, based on what you just said, Mike, you know, when you have partisan elected officials sign on to a letter, does that lessen the impact of that letter? So it was, you know, should we have law enforcement or Shrek sign one letter and then we would sign another one? So I mean, I think what Commissioner French is saying is just did we make an appropriate motion sort of internally as far as our our processes to allow for the mayor to also sign on to that letter. But I guess I would now have to point to Jared and ask Jared, am I getting that correct, that there would be 4 signatures on the letter that we sign, the 3 commissioners and the mayor? Or is it just the mayor would send one with her signature and we would send one with our 3 signatures, but it would be a similar letter? You're on mute, Jared.
The way that it's formatted right now is that it's the 3 commissioners, the mayor, the police chief, Brian Schaefer, and half a dozen others all on the same letter.
Oh, okay.
That's the way that it is right now, but that doesn't mean that it has to be. It's still in your court as far as what you want to do. It's still in draft form. So it's still wide open.
Commissioners, from my perspective, I can make either work. I don't want to make this hard. I think a letter that's signed by everybody is impactful. I mean, you are correct. I mean, I said the same about does it become political or not, but I don't want to make this as hard as it needs, any harder than it needs to be. So I can make either work, just depending on what you all decide.
I suggest we look at the draft and see how it's worded, and then we can make a decision on whether it's a multiple letter or all of it. I am encouraged by the fact that a lot of users of the system are now willing to sign, and potential users to sign the letter. I think that puts a tremendous amount of weight behind it.
So, certainly the more the merrier. So from my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so maybe if we just keep it the one letter and just have as many signatures as we can get, because I mean, the legislature is not reading all these different letters. They're just going to be looking at who's signed it. So maybe that's the way to go. But that's I guess, Mike, what we were trying to let you make that decision.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think if it's easiest to just put it all in one, then go ahead and do it that way.
Okay. Then I think we're covered from the motion that we did last week, if that's what we're choosing to do.
All right. Any further discussion on this bill before we move on? Okay. Back to you, Mike.
Sure. The next bill, 5163. This is an interesting bill. I know that you might have saw something from Todd Milkey in the sheriff's office about it. I think I was CC'd on an email where he forwarded you some information on this. So this deals with sex offenders. The legislation comes from the sex offender board. The name of the proper names are in section 1. It's a recommendation from them, and it deals with, they're trying to define or enter into like a fair share concept. And the point of that is to have offenders in different spots in the state, not just in magnet communities, which I know you were one, and County ends up being one. There's criteria in that bill about when an offender could be released in other jurisdictions. And a lot of it's contingent on, do they have the services and monitoring and all those types of things that I know you're familiar with that you end up having to do. At this point, I don't necessarily want direction on the bill. My first glance is I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good step, but I think your county staff in the departments that are affected by this should take a look at it. And again, I don't see a downside right now, but I'm guessing that's your courts, probably folks in the sheriff's office and whoever else I'm missing. They're involved in decision-making when dealing with offenders that are released. And again, sexual offenders, this is not just, it's not just, I don't know what you call it, a regular offender, but anyway, your folks take a look at this. This benefit to the county based on some of the conversations I've heard in the past. So not necessarily looking for direction, but want your folks to get some good eyes on this and get some comments back to you and to me ultimately.
All right.
And I should have added, it does have a hearing later this week, but I will definitely monitor that. 5211, a tax increment financing bill. This is not a new concept either. TIF has been around for a long time. I've heard about it out of different groups from Spokane with support for tax increment financing for aiding in economic development. There are some criteria in the bill that I would call sideboards for how often you could do a TIF project and what those look like. I think it's important that you do take a look at those, that some of your staff does take a look at those. For some background, the bill's being pushed by different economic development interests, but one of my county lobbyist colleagues is working the bill as well. I texted with that person yesterday and just said, hey, any downside to this for the counties? Just asking anecdotally, was told no, certainly want to verify that. So if you want to have one of your, assuming you want to support something like this, you want to have some of your tax or your fiscal folks take a quick look and make sure that this is workable for Spokane County if in fact you want to be a part of it and support the bill. So maybe premature for you to take a position on it. Maybe you want to look at some of the better detail on that. But again, I thought it came to mind because this is not a new concept and historically been supportive of it.
Mr. French?
How is this bill different than what we already do?
Fair question, Commissioner. It may not be conceptually. And again, I'm not familiar enough what you are doing versus not now. So that's part of the reason why I want staff to take a peek at it.
Okay.
Can we see what the new chapter title? It says that it's adding a new chapter to Title 39. What exactly are they adding here, or is that just something we need to look at? And I don't.
Well, anywhere it says new section, Jerry, it's so section 1 is all new language.
Same question I had that Commissioner French is what exactly is different than what we have now.
So anywhere in the bill where it says new section or has underlined language, it's new law.
Okay, thank you.
So if whoever you have, so new sections 1 and section 2 are both all new language.
Okay.
Keep scrolling there. 3, 4. So all of this so far is all new language.
Okay.
I don't see yet where they're amending anything.
It's like not until you get to section 10 do you actually see underlined language. That's
what I was looking for.
To exist. But like Mike said, everything that says new section is, I mean, essentially view that as underlined as well, because that's all new. So this
rewrites.
So I mean, I have not read through this. This is a 10-page bill. So I mean, it's like they're adding a lot to the TIF, to the TIF laws with this, I would think. But
well, yeah, that's why I wanted somebody there to get some good eyes on it. Some of your staff that deal with the intricacies of TIF to make sure this is not going to run afoul, I guess, of current programs. And based on the folks advocating for this, that is not their intention. It's only to increase these types of opportunities.
all right. Jerry, could you send this to Roy and Amicio? Have them look it over?
Sure can.
Okay. I mean, this just makes, I mean, essentially, I think the question we need to ask ourselves is this giving us more flexibility around TIFs or less flexibility around TIFs
Exactly.
in these 10 pages? So.
Yeah. And again, I think the intention is more. So,
okay.
I'll look for that feedback. I guess they'll provide that to you, of course, commissioners as well, and we can discuss the bill further as it moves through the process. And then the last bill is a companion measure 1025 and 5006. This is a bill that I think we talked about it last year. It made its way through most of the process, but ended up dying. I think it died in the Senate towards the end of session. But it's pretty self-explanatory in the bill summary. It allows city and counties, park districts to go to your voters for a 1/10 sales tax to fund parks, M&O. Mr. Chase, I know, is on this Zoom. I saw him there. The group that he's a part of, it's essentially the association that lobbies for parks in Olympia, is very supportive of the bill. Doug had reached out to me about it, and I told him I would bring it to your attention, and as coincidence, he is on the call today. So sorry, Doug, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I guess I'm putting you on the spot. And then commissioners, I assume it's okay to hear from Doug about it.
Yeah, Doug, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, really, it's an optional, solely optional for the 1/10 of 1% sales tax. I could see it potentially someday down the future. It could be a helpful tool. There is no language that prevents supplanting, not that I would want to encourage it, but it really is just a case where if it were to be imposed, it would provide some options. It's a little unique where if the county were to put it in place, it would certainly apply county-wide, but there's very clear language where other cities or a metropolitan park district, if they were to pass it down the road, the tax collected in their jurisdictional boundaries would directly go to them. So more likely than not, it would result in a coordinated effort at some point if it ever were to be used. So one of those things that where there may not be any harm in adding a potential tool down the road.
Okay. Okay. Back to you, Mike.
Just if the commissioners, if you have any feeling about that bill either way, wanted to bring it to your attention.
Thoughts, Commissioner French, CUNY?
I guess kind of like what Doug said, it's a tool. Certainly we can choose to use it or not use it. So just providing more tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as it's voter approved, I don't have any problem with it. I mean, it just gives us the opportunity to get some resources if the voters want us to use it that way. It'll be interesting to see how far it gets with so much energy about anti-sales tax initiatives going on over there, whether, I mean, this will survive.
Yeah, I agree with my seatmates on that one. It looks like at least it looks like the House version. I mean, they're both scheduled for public hearings and executive session already. Or I'm sorry, no, public hearing in the Senate, and the House version public hearing. Okay, so yeah. They each have hearings. Like one today and one in 2 days. So
so then I guess Commissioner, certainly hearing that you don't want to oppose the bill, you want to voice Spokane support for it, in as much as, you know, signing in favor and then me communicating with legislators that you're okay with the bill.
Thoughts?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine too.
Sure. Okay, thank you. That gives me what I need. Back to the last point, I put the word transportation down. Just want to heads up that as we talked about things before session, you know, in our agenda, we had a list of transportation projects, and I remains somewhat skeptical that there will be a transportation revenue package this year. Having said that, Representative Fye, the chair over on the House side, he was the one that had some of those listening sessions that I know you'd heard about a bit this past summer and into the fall. He has a plan that he's going to unveil next week. He made 3 or 4 times available to listen to him brief it. I'm signed up for one of those. So just wanted to give you a heads up that I'll be listening in on that. You might see some press work out of it or some news stories, I would assume. So that was just more of an update than anything else. More of the same probably next week in terms of bills. Like I said, the volume's down a bit, but there's always some stuff that impacts us. So unless you have any other questions for me, this is all I needed to accomplish today. And that's it, I guess, on my end.
Anything, Commissioner French, Kenny?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Okay, talk to you all again soon. Thanks.
Mike,
Yes.
I don't know if the commissioners want to deal with this now or later, but I just handed Commissioner Kearns and French the suggested changes on the 1155 opposition letter. And Commissioner Cuny, you received it via email about 5 minutes ago. So the suggested changes from the city are in red, and the original text of the letter that went to them over the weekend is still in black.
I don't know if it's draft. How about we take an opportunity to read this and we'll address it this afternoon.
Great idea.
Okay.
Thank y'all. Bye-bye.
See you later, Mike.
Bye. See you later.
Okay, next up we have Doug Chase. Doug's going to talk to us a little bit about Plants Ferry. So take it away, Doug.
Okay, real simple one here, real easy. Start the year off right. We have an item that we'll look to bring before you next week, if this sounds okay, where we have lined up an agreement with Vista Utilities, and John Batelli and our operations team are looking to repair a line, an electrical line that's failed a couple times now, which is kind of the yellowish green color that runs from the main office out there at our Plants Ferry Stadium up to a CXT restroom that has some irrigation clocks and a few other things. And we've worked out a deal where my team, our team, will run a conduit and get it in the ground on the red line there. And then Avista will come in for just under $7,500 and run some new electrical. We were able to secure funds and roll over through savings last year in our budget. So we've got it covered and locked in, and just thought I would bring this to your attention and see if there's any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, Doug, on the service that you're talking about and stuff, is it just straight service, or is there a demand meter on it as well?
You know, right now, I think it's going off of the building. With it being a new service, I would expect there would be a service meter, and John Batelli can confirm, because they'll be running, I guess, not only power to address that building and the other needs we have on it, but there'll be an amount there with the transformer that will be able to accommodate future demand should anything arise down the road. So I would expect there'll be a dedicated meter on that.
That is correct, Doug. There will be a dedicated meter and a transformer close outside the building, which should resolve any issues that we've had.
And the Soccer Association, through our agreement, will assume the cost for that
That's correct.
electrical use per the agreement we have in place.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Doug.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, next on our agenda, that brings us to Roy Cogan. I think I see Roy there. He's in the middle on our screen. All right, Roy, feel free to take yourself off mute and take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The purpose of the presentation today is to review the independent review of PFM, the county's municipal advisor, with respect to the request that has been made by the Public Facilities District to contingently agree to replenish their debt service reserve account under certain circumstances. And again, the structure would be the PFD does have around $28 million unrestricted reserve now. They have a $10 million, a little over $10 million debt service reserve policy. So once those monies were gone, the county would be obligated to make up any draws in the debt service reserve account. PFM has done a pretty good analysis on what the risks would be to the county. And do we have Duncan Brown on the phone?
Duncan, are you with us?
Yeah, Duncan? No, I don't see him. So I'm assuming the board received a copy of the PFM report.
I don't believe I did.
I'm having trouble finding it.
Yeah, I've not seen it.
You have not seen it?
No.
Gary, do you have it?
Gary, if you could unmute yourself. You're still muted, Gary. There we go.
Great.
Yep.
All right, I do have a copy, a draft copy of what Duncan had sent me last week.
You know, Gary, what I would suggest, I think this is a very important item for the board. And does it make sense to postpone this item and get this in the hands of the commissioners and give them ample time to review it?
I believe so. It was my understanding that Duncan was going to provide this to the board, so I'm surprised that they don't have it in their hands.
Yeah,
so,
I thought he was also. So
with that being the case, yes, it's a substantial document and it has quite a bit of information in it. The bottom line is if the county agrees to use our bond rating and do the bond financing for them, it saves them a differential of about $6.9 million.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get Gary, if you could circulate that amongst the three of us, we'll take a look at it and we'll queue this up for Monday or Tuesday of next week.
Gary, if you wouldn't mind, I'll reach out to, or one of us can reach out to Duncan and have him send a final draft. I mean, a final copy. This is marked draft, so we have his final product.
I sure will. I'll do that as soon as we're off this meeting.
Okay. No, it's a 9-page document with exhibits, so it is important for the Board of County Commissioners to have an unrushed opportunity to review it and think about it, so we can ask questions. And we'll make sure Duncan Brown's on the phone the next time this item's noticed.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, sorry for the hiccup.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Next up, we have Aaron Gertel. I do not see Aaron on Zoom with us yet, but we're about 10 minutes ahead, so I assume Aaron will be joining us shortly. Is there any miscellaneous items we want to knock off the list while we're waiting on Aaron? Jerry, you're usually good for one or two miscellaneous.
I was gonna wait till this afternoon on one of the miscellaneous, but it's probably just as well to do it now. There's been a video that was produced by the some of the Restaurant Association folks that's really well done. And Cindy Wendell has been working on it. In fact, she left here just a while ago to go visit with those folks. And at some point in time, we'd love the commissioners to look at that video and make a decision whether you wanted to be supportive of it or not. Basically what it's asking the governor to allow a 50% occupancy rate at the restaurants and bars. There's apparently 2 videos. The one that I saw, the first one, very, very well done, very sophisticated. But anyway, that's what we'd like to send to you folks. In fact, Cindy was going to send it to you.
Yeah, we received it in an email. I'm going to have Ron pull it up. We'll just do a screen share here.
That's awesome. Apparently, there's another one being produced. I'm not sure if it's the same topic or not. That's, like I say, Cindy left about 15 minutes ago to go visit with the group.
Yeah, it looks like KHQ is going to run a story about it tonight. Is what Cindy says in her email here. Yeah, it looks like says we've been given word that Mayor Woodward endorses the videos. Whitman County is looking at the videos this morning. Mayor Johnson of Pullman has endorsed the video with additional endorsement. So here's the video.
Here we go.
Hey, give us 1 second here. Can you mute us?
Sounds very futuristic.
Yeah, give us 1 second. Maybe if you mute our end or okay.
Load up on this one.
Okay, yeah, that'll do it. Right at the top. Here we go. Can everybody see that? Okay.
You want to play the other one?
Yeah, we'll do the other one. 1 second. There's a second video we'll play here.
I couldn't hear that video. Did everybody else hear it? No, I didn't hear it at all.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything at all with the video, so it's not going to work really well on radio.
Okay. You got me. I don't know how we get the audio to play then on that. So Al and Mary, and Jerry, looks like it was sent to everybody at 8:26 this morning. So if you could watch that when we adjourn, we'll be sure to decide if we want to take action on that this afternoon. And I'll forward it. I'll forward it to everybody else that's on the call that maybe didn't get it.
I'll see if I can figure out how to do it.
Okay. Okay, well, we have Aaron with us. So Aaron, for a fair update, take it away.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. I mean, you know, we're a bit into this, but I haven't seen you guys in a while. You know, we just wanted to touch base. We've all been living in this COVID, I'm going to say fun zone in a real sarcastic way for the past 10 months. And here at the Fair and Expo, we've had to make a lot of tough, you know, decisions along the way with our staffing and cutting costs, but also being here and being available for the community and for all the services that we've been able to offer and resources and help that our teams offered along the way. When we started out at the beginning of COVID, we had about $1.9 million in reserves, and we were feeling pretty good about that. As an enterprise fund, you know, I'm really proud that we've been self-supporting for a lot of years here at the Fair and Expo, but we're seeing things change. And today we wanted to reach out and visit with all of you because, you know, we're starting to look at the rest of 2021 and we're going to need some support from the county. And especially if we're able to put on some form of a fair in the fall, which we hope we are, and things are starting to look that way. But I've got Bill here, our finance person. He's been crunching our numbers. We've got some conservative figures to share with you and where we're at. I mean, I think a big part of what we're trying to accomplish here too is maintaining our core staff. We've let half of our 15 staff members go. I've recently reduced some of our core staff members down to 16 hours a week for January, February, and potentially March. These are folks I can't find carbon copies of out there in the world when we get back up and running. And there's a lot of things that we're going to need lead time to be building up to reopen our facility for events. So I'm going to turn it over to Bill. You'll see our finances on the screen, just kind of bare minimums and what we're thinking moving forward for the rest of the year.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bill Johnston. I'm the accounting tech out here at the Fair and Expo Center. And on the top third of the form that you see on the screen there, that is the bare minimum stuff, items that we need just to stay in business for the rest of the year. And we started this, we looked at this going from March through December of this year. We feel that we have probably enough reserves to last us through February and have a little bit left to go into March, but we won't have enough to continue for the rest of the year. We have some fixed costs. Obviously, we have a Vista in the city of Spokane. Those just don't go away. The facility is going to still be here. We have minimums that we have to pay no matter what. And some months, this is on an average basis. So there's obviously some months that are a lot more expensive than others, but I just had to go back and calculate off of the prior years. So as you see down there, there's right about a third of the page down, it says subtotal with fair for March through December, or without fair, I should say, is $1,026,000. That's, like I said, just to stay in business. And that's with having the core people come back and work full time starting in March that we would have. Down below the middle third of the page, that is if we put on a fair. Now the first section it talks about is just a scaled back version. So what would happen is we'd probably have no grandstand entertainment at all. We would just have more, the vendors would be spread out. We probably wouldn't have a whole lot of carnival. We haven't found out exactly how carnivals fit into the new realm this year. Food courts are going to have to be spread out. We will have some entertainment on the grounds in terms of like the pig races and other items of that nature. So there are some entertainment costs associated with putting on the fair. And of course, we do have some advertising to try and get people to come to the fair, remind them the fair is still here. If you add that to the amount to get the fair, keep the fair going, the grounds going, we'd be up to 1.9 million about at that point, because the fair itself is a little almost $900,000. Then down on the bottom third, there's as we get going, we're going to have to add back maintenance staff. So the number there, that 162,547, that's the annualized amount for two of the people that have been laid off. So obviously, if we brought them back in June, we'd only need half of that because the half of the year would already be gone. We also showed you if we decided to put something on or got the okay from the health department to put some entertainment in the grandstands, we probably have to spend another $340,000 to attract performers, get the rodeo in here, the demolition derbies, and truck and tractor pulls. And if you have grandstand acts, you're also going to have more advertising dollars you're going to have to spend. And then down on the bottom, just as a little reference there, it kind of gives you an idea of what our total annual expenditures for the fairgrounds were for 2018 and 2019 before our lovely COVID hit. Yeah, does anybody have any questions?
I guess, Commissioner CUNY, you first.
Yeah, so I guess I just, Aaron and I have talked a little bit, and I just wanted to point out that since they're an enterprise fund and they're part of Spokane County, the determination was made that they were not eligible for CARES dollars. And so all the things that happened out at the fairgrounds, we weren't able to give them any of the CARES dollars for. So, it's one of those things that we have to, in my mind, we have to figure out how we help them out. We want to have a fair. This is an important piece of our community, and so trying to figure out how we help them so they can be successful. I mean, we've seen it like at the Public Facilities District, and Visit Spokane, talking to these different organizations that, had to reduce staff, but you can't reduce to zero and still be able to operate as you start to move forward. So I'm completely on board with trying to figure out how we help and get them the funds they need to be successful.
Jerry?
If I may, I wanted to also point out that it isn't just the fair. Before COVID, we literally had something going on at the fair all the time. We had the big horn show and some big heavy hitters. And we have to assume, because they are an enterprise fund, that if when COVID goes away, whenever that is, these folks are going to want to have those shows again, and they're going to put those on. If we could have got some CARE dollars at the fairgrounds, it would have kept them afloat, just like it did a lot of the other businesses waiting for the recovery. But there's some re-engagement costs that are going to the fairgrounds is going to have when. Like I say, not just for the fair. So, I'm not, it's up to the commissioners, but I'm pretty confident that we don't want our Fair and Expo Center to go away. And so we just need to be, somewhat creative and figure out how to keep this boat floating until the shows start to come back.
Aaron, can I ask, our fair is usually first or second week of September. What are the other fairs looking at, or what are they looking at around the country? Because with the rollout of the vaccine, we're hearing the potential that by the fall, by September, that there would be some level of herd immunity out there if enough people get vaccinated. Are any other fairs kind of rolling the dice and thinking like, no, we're gonna bet on that happening, and we're gonna have a normal fair, bet the way we're used to? Is anyone looking at that?
I think everyone's really planning, 2 to 3 scenarios of what their fairs are going to look like. A couple fairs around Washington have moved full steam ahead in booking grandstand entertainment acts. They've already put those on sale. And obviously the public's responding really well to that. But again, yeah, everyone's got at least a plan A and a plan B. We're fortunate enough, yes, we're late enough in the season. We could be in a really good spot to really be more of a full fair. We just, no one seemed to get that special crystal ball yet to let us know for sure where we're going with this, but it could be really optimistic for us at that point. The first fair opened in Florida on Friday, and definitely the public was excited and eager to come out and have some normalcy and attend an event. What I saw from some live streams, some folks wearing masks, some not wearing masks. And that's a lot of the other things that are going to have to play into this, and at what level the health district and the governor's office and the parameters that we're going to be working with for our guests to have a safe experience at the fair. I will tell you, I am now the incoming president of the State Fair Association's Board of Directors, and we are corresponding with the governor's office because as of right now, they've really shut down what fairgrounds can do. We were making some strides in late summer and fall where we were able to have some agricultural related events and some smaller things. And then specifically they came out with those guidelines in October that said, hey, fairgrounds, you can only do things at that time. It was going to be phase 3. Right now we're looking at, event venues need to be into phase 2 to have 25% capacity. But the calls we've had recently to the governor's office, not even sure that really includes fairgrounds at this point. So that's something I'm working on with some of my other constituents around the state to get some clarification. But yes, everyone that I've talked to around the state and some other regional fairs, like I said, a plan A and a plan B.
Okay. Commissioner French, do you have a question?
Well, I guess I'm going to be one of those that's going to be in support of us going ahead and trying to have a traditional fair. I mean, our goal is to achieve herd immunity, and what better way to prove that than at the fair? If
we're gonna have to redo. I'm sorry. We got to come up with a new theme now, Al. That was great.
I was going to say you got your theme for the next fair.
That's awesome.
Be part of the herd.
Yeah.
I think the more counties that move forward with doing the county fair, more pressure it puts on the governor to be able to find a way to make it happen. And otherwise, he owns it in terms of shutting it down and stuff. So, but if in fact we're going to have the vaccine out in April, May, then there's 3 months to be able to make sure that everybody's healthy before we convene in September and stuff. So I'd say let's try and make it happen.
Wonderful. I mean, it's definitely, it's going to take us some rebuilding for sure over the next couple of years. It's not going to be an easy just flip the light switch back on.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No. I'm with Al. I want to see us, be optimistic. I want to see us give us the opportunity to move forward and have the type of fair that we're used to. I mean, I think that's something that this community would really come out and support, I think.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Commissioner Cuny?
No, I completely agree. I think we've got to really look hard. The finances their fund balance is $600,000 at this point. So we're going to have to, have Gary help us, and we need to look to make sure that we fund them. And part of that's additional funding, because as we know, like from talking with different other events venues, that you've got to have money to purchase in advance, like the entertainment and those things. So again, this is one that we really ought to look at and make sure that we properly give them the resources to do what they need to do.
Just make sure whatever contracts people are signing, that there's a clause in there that if our governor shuts this down, the governor has to pay the bill. So
perfect. Yeah, we hadn't added that part, but we'll be sure to loop it in. I mean, we definitely have some escape clauses in our contracts that we're working on.
Jim Kaufman can help you with the language, I'm sure.
Perfect. Well, great. Well, it's wonderful to hear everyone's words of encouragement and support, and whatever we need to do to help move this process forward, we are available and ready to make that happen.
Okay. All right. So, Gary, do you have the info you need to maybe bring us a proposal?
Well, a couple of questions, obviously. Is there any move afoot in the legislature to provide any relief in this session to fairs across the state?
Not at this time, but yes, go ahead.
And then secondarily, I think that it would be a good discussion by the commissioners on the appropriate use of any of our reserve funds.
I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah, I think that's where those, potentially that's going to be, where this is going to have to come from.
Okay.
And Aaron, since you're the president of the Fair Association, do you think maybe floating the concept? Oh yeah, and that reaction is for you, being the president of the association.
Thank you.
Do you think that's something your association could approach the legislature with a funding request to help try to make the fairs as whole as possible?
Yeah, we are working on some different things, but right now our focus is that fairs across Washington, and there's about 70 of us, there's about $2 million each year through the Department of Ag's budget that is administered out to the fairs. So we generally receive about $56,000 of that allocation. And what it goes for is our awards and premiums at the fair. Unfortunately, and this isn't the first time we've battled this, they're looking at really cutting that $2 million from the state budget. And with some of our smaller community fairs around the state, that would put them out of business. They wouldn't be able to have fairs moving forward. So right now our focus is we're just trying to preserve that $2 million. I think there's something at a national level they're working on again. There had been a $500 million Fairs Relief Act, but it did not make it into the COVID relief package that came out in December. And I have also looked into the SBA shuttered live venue grant. And again, because we're a government agency, we do not qualify for that. But Puyallup Fairgrounds being a private entity, they're applying for that. So there will be a number of fairs around the state that can receive funding from that resource, but all of the grants that have been available up till now, we haven't qualified for because we are the county.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have anything for Aaron? Okay. Aaron, thank you for the update. I think we'll be in touch soon.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your time and look forward to brighter days ahead.
Yep. Thank you, Aaron. Okay. Can I ask Commissioner French, Commissioner Cuney, were you able to locate the email from Cindy Wendell with the links to those videos?
Yeah, I was able to find mine.
Okay. Commissioner Cuney?
Yes, I found mine. I have not clicked on them yet.
Let's just take a 3 to 5 minute comfort break. And during that break, if each of you could watch those videos, I think it's important that we see it and respond back to Cindy. So let's just take a 3 to 5 minute comfort break. It's 11:14. And so we'll be back in just a few minutes. And while we're there, take a look at those videos. Okay. Okay, we are back. It is 11:18. Was everybody able to see the videos? Okay. So let me check here. So I guess the ask, I'll pull it up. So I'll have Ron pull up the email just so we can see what the ask was that Cindy was sending to us. Okay. So we watched the videos and okay. Okay, so I guess the ask is, she's asking, do we want to, as a board, take action stating our support or endorsement of this message? Any thoughts?
Well, I guess I'll weigh in here. Mary, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you, Mary?
Go ahead.
I can see Commissioner French talking and he's unmuted, but I can't hear him.
You can't hear me?
I don't hear Mary.
So it's on your end, Josh, because Mary and I can hear each other.
On my end. Hang on. Okay, I think I got you. Mr. French?
So
yeah, I can hear you.
So I was if this is designed to appeal to the governor, why are we looking to support airtime to display the video? I mean, that assumes that the governor's watching. My guess is if he's watching something, it's not in Spokane. It just seems to be an odd vehicle to get a message to the governor. I mean, I support the message 100%. That's not the issue. I'm just wondering, is this a really effective way to get the governor to open it up? I'm not sure how we get this in front of him to where it's actually going to make a difference. But just my initial observation.
Yeah, and I guess I would say, you know, my concern is with us actually endorsing, you know, I endorse the thought as well, but I mean, we got to get our metrics so we can, you know, actually even get where they're going to let us to get to phase 2. So this to me kind of predisposes, you know, even phase 2 or trying to get us at 50%, you know, right now. And right now with what the governor's office is putting out, you know, we can't even get there. And as we know, I mean, when we talked about it at the recovery meeting this morning, I mean, you know, realistically, the way we're testing in Spokane County, I mean, we're not going to get to a 10% number for a while. So, I mean, so we've got, I mean, to me, those are things I'm most concerned about right now. I totally agree with this message and support the message. Yeah, I'm kind of, I think I'm with Al trying to figure out, you know, what's the right way for us to approach this. And I think, you know, for us to spend our time on trying to get the metrics right is, you know, I don't know, kind of where I'm at, because I, you know, I think if we fractionalize, we're not going to make an impactful point to the governor and the Department of Health.
Okay. All right.
What are your thoughts, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I saw it, I mean, I don't think that, you know, just because, you know, we support one method doesn't mean we wouldn't support another. And I don't know. I guess it's not clear to me on whether, I mean, to Al's point, I don't know if this is going to be on television or if this is more just a digital campaign. The way I read this was more like they just wanted a list of elected officials or elected bodies that support the concept. I think I guess we can ask, you know, if, you know, is there going to be a list that accompanies this video, or is it more just to show that the business owners have a list of supporters behind this message? So maybe that's a question that I mean, that's more what I thought. Like I thought this was more just a digital campaign, and the business owners would like to say, and we have the support of, you know, elected officials or elected bodies A, B, and C, you know, kind of thing. So, but I don't know, we can clear that up or ask additional questions. I don't know. That's just how I interpret it. I could have that totally wrong, but.
Well, I mean, I support the message that they're trying to communicate. I think we all support the message, but I mean, the governor, with his actions over the weekend and last week and stuff, is probably feeling pretty magnanimous with what he's already done, and taking us out of the 4 phases and putting us into 2 phases and yada yada yada. But I'm not sure that this message is, in a digital format, is persuasive enough to get the governor to change his mind when he's already taken what he, I'm sure, feels is a real stretch for him to get us to where we're at. And so, I mean, if we were playing the message to the general public, great, but that's not to expect an outcome, because we already know that the governor doesn't respond to political pressure. So what good does it do to build up political pressure when we have already seen him time after time reject that approach? So I guess I'm just, it's a great message, but I'm just not sure it's hitting the mark to actually affect change.
Okay. All right. Okay, well then we will move on to miscellaneous. Back to miscellaneous. Jerry, you said you had one that you were going to save for this afternoon, or else we can take it up now.
We just discussed it. I was going to give you folks time to look at the video.
It was that. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Okay, well, anybody else have any miscellaneous? John?
Yeah, Commissioners, a couple of Fridays ago on the 8th of January, Bruce Russell reached out to all of you via email and asked if you'd like a mental health crisis stabilization facility tour. 9 o'clock this Friday. So let us know. If that's something that you'd like to do, we can definitely make it happen to physically walk through the facility.
I know I've RSVP'd for that time. Al, Mary, have either of you?
I know it's on my calendar, so I'm assuming that John RSVP'd, so I'll check with them.
All right, we'll have Gina add that then to the weekly calendar, just to make sure, since more than one of us will be there. So
correct.
I'm looking forward to seeing what they've done, because yeah, last time we were all there, it was just a shell.
Yep. So, got a lot of work done since then.
Awesome. Good.
Great. We'll let Bruce and Baker Construction know that we'll be there.
Okay. All right, Jared, is that something you want to do, like a walkthrough with a Facebook Live or something, and just so people can see what's going on?
I don't see why not.
Yeah. Or at least take photographs and.
Or yeah, video walkthrough. Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Miscellaneous? Good. The order. Commissioner French.
Yeah. So I shared with you last week that we were able to, the previous Friday, at the Washington State Building Code Council, pass a resolution to extend the effective date of the 2018 building codes until July 1. And of course, that was subject to the governor either agreeing to not appeal it or override it. And I just got an email from the Building Code Council that the governor overrode our change in the effective date. So now the effective date is back to February 1. So I'll make sure that this is communicated back out to the people in the construction industry. But this is just another example of where the governor just doesn't have an ear. Well, it's a 10 ear to the concerns of the people that are out there on the front line and stuff. And so it's really unfortunate because this is going to create a lot of heartache across the state, not just here on the local level and stuff. So, and this was supported by BIAW, by the home builders, by a whole litany of people across the state. And the governor just, you know, he didn't care. The interesting thing is, and I need to get there, he actually put out a letter. I want to see the letter, but to be able to overturn our decision means that he's got to declare that we are no longer in a state of emergency. And I want to see how he finessed his way around maintaining a state of emergency, but yet ignoring actions that were taken based on that state of emergency that he's declared, and see if this effectively overrides his declaration of a state of emergency. It might be possible that people on his staff didn't understand what he was doing. So more to come as I learn what the full extent of the governor's actions were. But, you know, once again, he's just kind of turned his back on the constituents in the state.
That's terrible news, but thank you for the update either way. So,
yeah. So Jerry, you might want to let John Peterson and James know that we're back to February 1, and you know, they talked about instituting a program that allows them to vest permits, and so we'll end up having to do that. And I would not even be opposed, quite frankly, to doing what we did when we were dealing with the water rights issue and people vesting in the water rights before the state statute went into effect, and maybe allowing for longer hours of operation or something to be able to help the builders get in under the current code.
And that they're going to see a rush on that office that is just going to be very difficult to keep pace with.
Well, and you've got a lot of developers that have got packages of 100, 150, 200 plans that they're going to submit all at once.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, John's saying if we can just get them vested and then we'll go through the approval process, because there's no way he can process all of those overnight or even in a week. So we're going to, you know, if some of those builders don't get their plans in by February 1, you know, the three of us are going to be the three that are going to hear it the most.
I'll give him a heads up. That's very unfortunate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else for the good of the order before this afternoon? Okay. All right. Well, everybody have a great lunch break. And we are adjourned until 2 o'clock for our consent agenda.